Let's take a closer look on what these challenges are and how Portfolio for JIRA addresses them. First, it's important to note that actually these challenges of visibility start at the level of a single team. We've talked a lot about visibility across teams, but we actually learned throughout the last year that first and foremost we want to start help an individual team. And from there we can scale things up and multiply the solutions. Individual teams still have a couple of relevant challenges open with current common methodologies, like doing capacity and release planning, forecasting when can we deliver, what dates can I commit to my stakeholders, and how do I avoid bottlenecks. It's also about coming up with a visual, easy to share roadmap, like how do I create a visual roadmap everyone actually understands in a format that's common, in a format that other people can read and are familiar with. With more and more teams, we'll get more and more challenges. The focus shifts towards visibility and status, seeing actually what's going on. What are my teams working on? If you're a program manager, keeping an overview, what's the status and progress across all these teams? Staying on top of dependency. If one team's work can only start when the other team is finishing, how do I actually coordinate these things? How do I make sure nothing gets lost in between and a team suddenly gets blocked? How do I make sure that all dependencies on other teams' roadmaps are actually still there and those things are still on track? And of course, I need release planning and coordination. How do I align all teams for a joint delivery? And how do I keep everyone informed if one team slips their delivery dates? How does that cascade through to other teams? If we scale further even to the portfolio level, then the focus shifts towards high-level visibility. What are we actually working on? What's the status and progress of all key initiatives? Which projects do need my attention? Are we focusing on the right things actually? And how are we tracking to deliver those high-level business goals, objectives of the business? Do we contribute actually to those? Resource planning turns more into high-level resourcing decisions, like how can we fund this new initiative that's going on? How can we shift resources around to actually solve the challenge? Today, we see many teams using workaround solutions like spreadsheets, but they quickly become very messy. They are constantly outdated. It's very hard to maintain a lot of manual work to keep them up to date. That's why we've built Portfolio for JIRA. It seamlessly integrates with JIRA and provides visibility across all teams and projects. Portfolio has two main capabilities. The one is data-driven planning in order to accurately and realistically forecast. And the second one is roll-up reporting in order to actually see what's the status. So in brief, the first part helps to answer realistically what can we deliver and when. And the second part helps to answer what are we actually working on and how are things tracking. In order to do that, Portfolio takes the data from across multiple teams that work in JIRA and rolls them up into one shared view of status and progress, as well as one shared roadmap, a visual timeline across these teams. This is how it looks like in practice. So in order to provide one view across multiple teams and projects, we first of all need more hierarchy. Per default, we'll call these initiatives that sit above epics and user stories in order to group things together and get a shared understanding. And then Portfolio provides this notion of realistic data-informed planning in order to accurately forecast release dates and see if things are actually on track. Now, before I move on from here, a quick word of caution. We've seen over and over again that a realistic forecast can cause temporary shocks and feelings of disillusion with both individual teams and senior management. However, that's exactly the point. Portfolio exactly helps to have these hard conversations, these very necessary conversations to see what's actually doable and align everyone towards a realistic plan. And actually, a current user has summarized that best when saying, no longer can project managers and directors pick delivery dates out of the air as delivery targets. Now, senior stakeholders can work together to figure out how to shuffle priorities. There's no escape from the plan. That's expressing exactly where the value lies, from moving to guesstimates to actual data-informed planning. That's the power of portfolio. So let's come back to that idea of balancing visibility and autonomy. Portfolio adds to the visibility piece, providing visibility across teams and projects. And it does so by providing two important areas of information. What's the plan and how are we tracking? What's the plan is achieved by really supporting this data-informed planning approach based on realistic resourcing, based on actual estimates, providing an optimized schedule of what's possible, and rendering that in a clear visual roadmap stakeholders can actually understand, underpinned by transparent resource planning. The second part is how are we tracking. That's achieved by getting a view across multiple projects, providing status roll-up and progress, and things like the themes report we'll see later in the demo, which allows to get a resource allocation and see how much are we allocating to our most important focus areas for the time being. Portfolio is still a relatively young product, but because it solves such essential day-to-day challenges of these teams, it is already trusted by over 3,000 organizations which are using JIRA and are using Portfolio on top of it to get visibility and to plan across teams and across projects.